All right, so let's jump into something pretty wild happening over in the AI world. I'm sure you've at least heard whispers of this Chinese company, DeepSeek AI. They're making some serious waves, and some
I've
folks,
seen waves.
yeah, right. Some folks are even calling it AI's Sputnik moment. Like that Soviet satellite launch back in 1957 that kind of flipped everything on its head.
Oh, yeah.
DeepSeek is causing a pretty similar stir, and that's kind of what we're going to unpack today.
Yeah, it's not just the tech itself that's, rattling cages, although it is pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the way they're going about developing this AI, especially how cost-effective it is.
Right. And I mean, when you think about it, it makes sense. DeepSeek comes from a quantitative finance background. Their founder, Liang Wenfeng, he was a leader at High Flyer. That's a major quantitative hedge fund over in China. So efficiency is kind of like in their blood. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you see that efficiency on full display with their flagship model, DeepSeek R1. They managed to train this really powerful AI using, get this, roughly 2,048 NVIDIA H800 GPUs for about 55 days.
Wow.
And the total cost was only around 5.6 million US dollars. Now think about that for a second. Some of the leading US AI companies are spending, what, hundreds of millions, even billions
Yeah.
on their projects.
So DeepSeek figured out a way to get like comparable results at a fraction of the cost. I mean, that's got to have some people pretty nervous, right?
You could say that. I mean, when DeepSeek went public with all of this, the market, well, it freaked out a bit. We saw US tech stocks, specifically NVIDIA, because they're the ones supplying those GPUs.
Right.
They took a major hit. NVIDIA's market cap, it dropped by something like $600 billion in a single day.
Wow. Yeah, that's a real shock to the system. Makes you realize this isn't just some, tech demo they're showing off.
It's a real shift.
Yeah.
Like the whole landscape is changing. And here's what's even more interesting. DeepSeek is all about the open source approach. They're making their technology available for everyone to use and adapt.
That's pretty different from what we see with a lot of U.S. companies. Right?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
they're usually much more protective of their tech,
Yeah, right.
And that's what makes DeepSeek's strategy so interesting. You have this potential for wider access, more collaboration.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, it also makes you wonder about how it'll all be used, especially in the whole geopolitical context,
It's fascinating. It really is, to see how these different approaches are playing out. But let's get back to R1 for a minute. What makes it so impressive? What's the secret sauce?
Well, like some of the other really advanced models we're seeing now, R1 is amazing at reasoning. It can handle complex math problems, coding, logic, all that, by breaking it down into steps.
Okay.
But what really sets it apart is what they call deep think mode.
Deep think mode. Okay. Now I'm interested. What is that exactly?
Well, imagine for a second that you're watching the AI solve a problem.
Yeah.
Right? And you can actually see each step of its thought process just laid out in front of you. That's basically deep think mode.
So it's like you get to look directly into the AI's brain. That's pretty wild.
It is. And it's a big deal for transparency and building trust. You're not just getting an answer. You're seeing how it got there, following the logic and understanding how it reasons.
Yeah, I can see how that would be really appealing, especially for people who might be a bit wary of AI.
Right.
It kind of takes away some of the mystery. Right?
Exactly. And it means users can look at the conclusions the AI comes up with and judge them a bit more critically. See if there are biases, flaws in the reasoning. This kind of transparency is really rare in the AI world, and it really makes DeepSeek stand out.
Okay, let's break this down for our listeners a bit. So if Deep Think mode shows you how R1 gets to its answer, what kind of problems are we talking about here? Can you give us an example, something concrete?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Let's say you're trying to solve some crazy math problem, something with a bunch of steps and formulas,
Right.
In Deep Think mode, you wouldn't just see the final answer. You'd see R1 breaking the problem down into smaller parts, applying the right formulas, and then logically figuring out the final answer.
Step by step. It's like those show your work problems we had back in school, right?
Yeah.
Except now it's the AI showing its work.
Exactly. A great analogy. And it's not just for math problems either.
Yeah.
This could be for coding challenges, logic puzzles, anything that needs a step-by-step thought process.
So we've got this powerful AI that can solve all these complex problems. We've got this deep think mode where you can peek behind the scenes and see how it all works.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they're doing it all in a way that's super cost effective. It's got to be a real game changer.
Oh, absolutely. DeepSeek's approach, I mean, it could completely disrupt the way we think about AI development.
Yeah.
The economics of it all.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can get these results at a fraction of the cost, then it forces everyone to rethink what they're doing.
It's like they found some secret formula, some
Mm.
shortcut that no one else has figured out yet. And I
Yes.
bet that's making some of the big players in the AI game pretty uncomfortable.
You better believe it. DeepSeek coming onto the scene has definitely shaken things up. And the fact they're coming from China just adds another layer of complexity to the whole situation.
Yeah, it does feel like a big moment,
Yeah,
a turning point. Like we're entering a whole new chapter in the story of AI.
it really does.
Yeah.
And how this story unfolds, well, it's going to have some serious implications. I mean, for the future of technology, for geopolitics, maybe even for society as a whole.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's like we're seeing a whole new way of thinking about AI emerging.
Yeah.
Like for so long, everyone thought you needed these massive resources, tons of computing power, just to get anywhere in AI, right?
Yeah.
Well, DeepSeek's kind of turning that idea on its head.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, hey, there's a different way to do this, and it doesn't have to cost a fortune, right? I mean, I bet that's got some people over in Silicon Valley scratching their heads.
Oh, I'm sure there's some serious conversations happening at Google, Microsoft, you name it. I mean, if DeepSeek's approach works, if it's sustainable, this could change everything.
So are we talking about a future where AI is more democratized, where anyone with a laptop could have access to these powerful AI tools, not just giant companies with tons of money?
Yeah, I think that's a real possibility.
Yeah.
It's kind of exciting and a little bit scary.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine small businesses, startups, even just regular people having access to the same level of AI that only a few companies had before.
It's like the early days of the internet, right?
Yeah?
All these new possibilities suddenly opened up, but
Right.
things could also get out of hand pretty quickly.
It's a good point. I mean, the potential benefits are huge, but the risks, we got to think about those too.
Yeah.
Like any powerful tool, AI can be misused.
So what about some of those concerns? Data privacy is a big one, right? Especially with DeepSeek keeping all its data in China.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I get why some Western governments are a bit uneasy.
It's a legitimate concern. Look at how data's been used and misused in the digital age, right? And now you've got AI that can learn and adapt.
Right.
I mean, the stakes are even higher. We need to be asking some tough questions. Who has access to this data? How is it being used? What's stopping it from being abused?
And then there's the censorship thing. It almost seems like a bit of a contradiction with DeepSeek, right? On one hand, they're all about transparency with that deepthink mode, but their models still have to follow the Chinese government's censorship rules.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. It really reflects this bigger challenge we're facing right now. How do we deal with freedom of information and expression when technology and geopolitics are so intertwined?
So how does censorship actually work in practice? What kind of stuff is off limits?
Well, from what we've seen, it's the sensitive political topics, Taiwan's status, the Tiananmen Square protests, that kind of thing.
Right.
Basically, if you ask a question about something sensitive, the AI will either dodge the question or give you the official Chinese government line.
And what about deepthink mode? Does the censorship apply there too?
That's where it gets interesting. Some users have said they can sometimes glimpse the AI's uncensored chain of thought in deep sync mode,
Yeah.
like right before the censorship kicks in. It's like a game of cat and mouse,
Yeah.
trying to see what's behind the curtain before it closes.
So DeepSeek is stuck between a rock and a hard place,
Right.
wanting to be open and build trust, but also having to play by the Chinese government's rules.
Exactly. And it highlights how complicated things get when technology, politics, and ideology all collide.
So we've got data privacy, censorship, and this whole geopolitical tension. How are governments reacting?
It depends. Some countries, especially in the West, are being really careful.
Yeah.
We've even seen some ban DeepSeek on government devices because of national security worries.
Wow.
Other countries are still trying to figure it all out. How to balance the benefits with the risks.
It's like we're in completely uncharted territory, right? Trying to come up with rules for something that's changing so fast.
Oh, absolutely. That's the problem with emerging tech. It moves faster than our ability to understand it, let alone control it.
It's like trying to hit a moving target, but the target's also learning and getting smarter as you go.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And it just shows how important it is to keep talking about this, to work together. I mean, we need governments, industry leaders, researchers, everyone to be part of the conversation. We need to be talking about the ethics of AI, the risks, the safeguards.
We're at a crossroads, aren't we? The decisions we make now about AI, how we develop it, how we control it,
Oh, yeah,
they're going to have huge consequences down the line.
absolutely. We can't just sit back and watch. We need to be informed, engaged, and proactive in shaping where AI goes from here.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about how DeepSeek might impact the whole AI industry. Is their approach, with all that focus on efficiency and open source, is it really disruptive?
I think it has the potential to be hugely disruptive. Think about it. If DeepSeek keeps making these high-performance models, but at a fraction of the cost, it's going to force the entire industry to adapt.
So what would that look like? What would that shift be?
Well, for one, it could change this whole AI arms race that's going on right now. Companies spending billions to make bigger and more complex models.
Yeah.
DeepSeek's saying, maybe there's a better way, a more efficient, sustainable way forward.
So instead of just building bigger and more expensive models, maybe we'll see companies focus on making the models we have better, more accessible, and cheaper.
Exactly. And that could change the whole industry, make it more diverse, more competitive.
So that's a good thing. Right?
In theory, yeah. But it makes you wonder, how will this affect who holds the power in the AI world? Will smaller players finally be able to compete with the big guys? Or will the big guys just swallow up these new ideas and stay on top?
It's like a giant game of chess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Each move creates all these new possibilities, but also potential risks.
Right.
And DeepSeek just made a really bold move, one that's got everyone scrambling to figure out what to do next.
It's a fascinating time to be watching all of this unfold. And it reminds us that the future of AI, it's not set in stone. We're the ones writing this story with the choices we make, the investments we make, and the conversations we have about the future we want.
And talking about shaping the future, DeepSeek being all open source, it raises some really interesting questions about collaboration in AI development, right?
Yeah, it does. By making their tech open for anyone to use, they're basically inviting the whole world to help develop their models.
Yeah.
This could lead to faster innovation, more diverse applications, all sorts of things.
But wouldn't there be worries about, people misusing it, unforeseen consequences? If anyone can access and tinker with these models, doesn't that mean things could go wrong?
Sure, it's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's why we need strong ethical guidelines, responsible oversight. Open source doesn't mean anything goes right.
Right.
We still need ways to make sure AI is developed safely, ethically, and for the benefit of everyone.
So it's like balancing act. We want to encourage openness, but we also need to be smart about the risks and have the right safety measures in place.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to have these conversations, to grapple with the tough questions, and to work together to find solutions that let us move forward without losing sight of what's right.
It really does feel like DeepSeek has kind of thrown a curveball, like changed the whole game. We were all thinking this AI race was going to be this super expensive battle between the big tech companies.
Yeah.
And then boom, DeepSeek comes in with a completely different way of doing things.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that the best ideas, they don't always come from where you expect, right? DeepSeek's shown us that you don't necessarily need to throw billions of dollars at AI to make big progress.
Right.
Sometimes it's about, being smart, finding creative solutions, and using what we already have in new ways. Exactly. I mean, they're really challenging that idea that bigger is always better, which has kind of been the way AI has been going for a while now. But this open source thing, it's cool, but it also makes you think, what happens when anyone can get their hands on these powerful AI tools? I mean, what about the people who might want to use them for, not so good things?
Right, right. That's a real worry. Technology, it's a double-edged sword, and AI is no different. What can be used to solve problems, improve healthcare, push science forward, it can also be used for bad stuff.
No doubt.
So what do we do about it? Can we even control something as powerful as AI, especially when it's, potentially unpredictable?
It's a tough question, and there's no easy answer. And it's not something any one person or group can solve. It's going to take all of us. Governments, tech leaders, researchers, ethicists, everyone, really.
So we need to be having those uncomfortable conversations about the ethics of it all.
Yeah.
The risks, what kind of safety measures we need to have.
Absolutely. We need to be thinking about things like bias in algorithms, data privacy, what happens to jobs, the possibility of AI being used for weapons, that kind of thing. These are tough topics for sure, but we got to talk about them if you want to make sure AI is used for good.
It feels like we're entering this new era and we need a whole new set of rules. The old ones, they might not be enough for AI.
I agree. We need something different, something that can adapt, something that really understands the unique challenges AI throws at us. And speaking of challenges, let's not forget about how DeepSeek is playing into this whole US-China tech rivalry. It's definitely added fuel to the fire.
Yeah, it has. DeepSeek's success, It shows the world how advanced China's AI capabilities are becoming,
For sure.
and it challenges the idea that the U.S. is automatically the leader when it comes to AI. It also raises concerns about AI being used as a tool for, well, global power plays.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So how do we navigate this new world where AI isn't just a tech race, but also this geopolitical chess match?
Right.
Well, it's a balancing act, isn't it? We want to encourage healthy competition, push innovation forward, but we also have to be aware of the risks of things escalating, of conflict. We need open communication, countries working together, and everyone agreeing on some basic ethical principles. That's key.
Okay, let's step back for a minute and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Let's say DeepSeek is the start of this future where AI becomes like a commodity, something everyone has access to. What would that mean for, for everyday people?
It's a great question. I mean, it could mean everyone having access to personalized education, better healthcare, AI helping us be more creative.
Right.
But it also brings up questions like what happens to jobs? What about the possibility of AI being used to manipulate people?
Huh.
Do we need new skills, new ways of learning to succeed in this new world?
It's exciting for sure.
Yeah,
But it's also kind of scary, right?
it is. We're standing on the edge of this massive technological change, and there's so much we just don't know yet.
Yeah. But I think, if we go into this new era with open minds, with a willingness to work together, and if we stay focused on doing what's right, well, then I think we can make AI a force for good in the world. We can use it to solve problems, create a better, fairer future for everyone.
Absolutely. It's a challenge for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Stay informed, to get involved, and to help shape where AI takes us. We got to make sure it benefits all of humanity.
And on that note, that's going to do it for this week's deep dive into DeepSeek AI. Thanks for tuning in.